Santa Claus's lap is where I first learned that my body was a problem.
Ho, ho, ho. Whoa, you're a big girl.
The year before, when I turned 6, I barely hung off of Santa's knee. But now this word chubby had become synonymous with my name. And Santa, this magical man responsible for making all of my Christmas dreams come true, was telling me I was too heavy to sit on his lap. My body was already taking up too much space.
My earliest memories are of having a lot of problems with my body.
Writer Carvell Wallace began to understand the world's view of his body around 7 or 8 too. Recently, he wrote about the different ways his Black body has stood in the way of his happiness.
I was as a kid, I'm chubby, and then I went through this phase when I look back at it in my early 20s where I was very slim and muscular, and I lost a bunch of weight, then I gained a bunch of weight back.
When Carvell was in 8th grade, he held a knife to his stomach, contemplating the ways he could surgically cut off the rolls of fat from his body to fit the ideal.
This kid from your 4th grade class can run fast. This kid's good at basketball. This kid's good at football. This kid can fight. You don't have a body thing that you can do. It was in the way of my freedom and liberation.
With abs, he thought, came power and respect, the ability to be unbothered, to be seen as human.
It really comes down to a question of, do we get to experience our full humanity as Black people? And that's largely denied to folks who are deemed to look inappropriate for white spaces.
From body mass index to our nation's obsession with slenderness, our ideals of the ultimate body at its very core is racialized and racist. How do we get beyond this idea that big Black bodies are a problem and stand firm in our right, no matter what size, to take up space? That's the topic we're taking on in this episode of Truth Be Told. Stay with us. Sabrina Strings first got into researching the way fatness is racialized by watching her grandmother.
My grandmother was herself a slender woman, but she didn't find thinness something that should be celebrated in the Black community. And it wasn't necessarily something that she wanted to be.
But when her grandmother moved from Georgia to Los Angeles, she noticed that all of the white women were on diets. It was perplexing.
Now, what are these white women up to? It was funny because it was shady. There would be an element of these white women.
Sabrina went on to write the groundbreaking book, Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Phat Phobia, which traces it back to, you guessed it, slavery.
Slavery was an incredibly lucrative enterprise. And so it was so important to race scientists who were invested in slavery to keep a hierarchy in which Black women were not deemed to be the equivalent of white women.
A focus of that hierarchy became a white obsession with body size. And Sabrina says it manifested in the medical industry and the origins of the body mass index, which literally imposes white male body norms onto the world. And in the fashion industry through waist trainers and body shapers that sought to emulate the Black body, while at the same time constricting it. It manifests itself in the entertainment and media industry and in my own career in television. I was advised or lectured about it all the time. They wanted me and my Blackness, but there was also something they needed on a visceral level to control and reject.
Whiteness always includes an element of desire for Blackness, even as they're trying to distance themselves from us.
So we're at Lake Merritt. This is the place. This is where we came to know the Karens, right?
Mm-hmm. Barbecue Becky, right here.
Fresh off of reading Sabrina's book, I decided to meet up with two folks thinking deeply about body liberation. Writer Carvell Wallace and body positive fitness instructor Mozell. We chose to take up space at Lake Merritt in Oakland, California, at the very spot where a white lady in 2018 called the police on a Black family that was trying to have a barbecue.
That was her name, Barbecue
That
Becky.
was the Barbecue Becky.
Right. Well, many people have reclaimed this park since then, right? That didn't sound convincing, Carvell.
We'll take up the topic of gentrification another day. I wanted to meet Carvell and Mozell to learn more about how they're getting closer to this thing we call body liberation. Mozell, or Momo as their friends call them, identifies as trans fluid and is known for celebrating all body types in their classes at Radically Fit Studio. Carvell recently wrote a series of essays for Medium about his relationship to his body. So we laid out some blankets and kicked off our shoes as Momo shared the story of when they first became aware of how others, specifically men, saw their body.
I sit in the intersections of being adopted through family. So my family's lighter than me, even though I do feel like I am a lighter person compared to my other siblings and nibblings of the world. I'm still in this space of holding privilege. And I also was chubby. My body fluctuated from, big to small and all these different things. And so, my step-pops does a lot of producing. He would back in the day for people like Federation and D-Lo and just local artists of the Bay. And they'd be cover up. I'm like, but cover up for who though? I'm minding my business. I'm staying in a kid's place, right? Why are you in here? I'm having my Hello Kitty stuffed animals having a performance here.
Carvell, you're agreeing with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny because I was on the way over here, I had a memory unlocked that I hadn't remembered or made the connection of for a long time. And I remember when I was in 7th grade or something, I was living with this family that was taking care of me. It wasn't my mom and dad. I got busted masturbating, and the patriarch of that family, his only words to me were, "You're too into your body." And that was it. That's all I had to say about it. And that sentence, on the way over here, I was like, what a crazy sentence. I don't know what trajectory that sent me on in that moment internally. I know that one of the things that happened to me was that I was aware that my relationship to myself that I needed to have in order to feel whole was not going to be accessible to me in the context that I was operating in.
What crossed my mind in the context of the situation you were in at that time, where you were living with another family and this man said to you, "You're too into your body." Maybe he did mean that in a sexual way because he had caught you in this particular act. But I'm also just thinking about the importance of your body, and that it's all you have if you're not connected to your people, if you're not connected to your family.
Yeah, I'm trying to not put too many people on blast, actually, with the way I talk about this, but that was my family, but it wasn't, is what it was. But I was separated from my mother. And yeah, of course, to be separated from your mother on some core spiritual level, you're kind of messed up around that. Even if it all seemed, and you intellectually you understand, well, she needed to do this and this is better for me and whatever. Internally, you're still just, so you're looking for intimacy, love, physicality, the warmth of touch. You're looking for that stuff. And that's probably was a factor. The other thing I was thinking about when that memory got unlocked is I was just the writer in me was analyzing that sentence, you're too into your body. And I'm like, if a student wrote that in a paper, I'm like, what does that mean?
What does it mean?
What happens? Where do you, what does too into your body mean? What bad thing will happen? Will you explode? Will you and then so, and reflecting back on what this man who was coming from what he felt was a loving, protective place to me. He's trying to prepare me to be a dude in the world. Even in that context, I'm like, what does that mean? If I'm too into my body, then what? But it's also this question of the flip is well, what do I lose if I'm not in my body? Everything.
Okay, so I want to talk to both of you guys about body image. All of us are full-figured people. both of you all seem extremely comfortable in your bodies and your aesthetic. Has this always been? Is this a process? How did you get there?
Like, there's times where I really, like, I'm in awe of my body. I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm a baddie.
What are the things you love about it?
One of the things I love about it, some of the things I love about my body is that it exists. It exists in this space and this time.
It's wild because I have had like several body types over the course of my life, and I don't feel like I really consented to any of them. They just popped up, you know? It's really hard for me to love the way my body looks when it's heavier because the fat phobia is super implanted. They did a pretty good job of seeding that in me.
They meaning the society,
yeah,
the
they
world.
meaning all of us.
Yep.
I mean, I can love my body, and I do, but it takes work. It takes reorganizing my understanding. It takes questioning my aesthetics. It really helps when people love my body. That helps a lot. I mean, I have people in my life who like love my body, have seen it in every way, from every position, and love it, and tell me, or at least I believe them when they tell me they love it, and their actions indicate to me that they love it, and that helps me love it because I'm like, if I saw me and I was somebody else, I would love me. The problem is it's me. I think also one thing that helps is what you said. I love my body because it's here. My body works right now. It got me out of bed this morning. It got me to the car. It got me here. It gets, this body moves me through the world and it works right now. And I know all these bodies break down at some point. And I watched them break down. I watched my mother died in my arms 14 years ago. I watched her body stop working. She had a body and then she didn't have one anymore. And so I know that it's not forever. And so why would I indulge hatred of a thing that is moving me through the world just out of the goodness of its heart? Like, doesn't get anything out of it. It's beautiful. It's a container for my spirit.
It's a container for your spirit.
Yeah, and that's why I adorn it and put pretty colors on it and put necklaces on it. And that's why I try to look good when I leave the house. That's why I want to shine on people and have people look at me and be like, yes, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling love. I'm feeling kind of horny. This is great. Like, I want to give that to people. Even if I can't give it to myself, my body allows me to communicate with the world.
The complication that I have with that is I see how people treat me when my body is different, like when my body is smaller. And it's not necessarily like, okay, they treat me better. That's the obvious thing. But it's also like, I feel like they can then see me because I feel like the weight is like a distraction.
Yeah.
So that is always the loop in my head is like, okay, I know this is the distraction from them really being able to see how awesome I am.
It's like, I'm just like, if somebody can't, at a certain point in life, I know that there are people who can't see who I am because of my size, my color, my race, my hair, my skin, the way I'm dressed, whatever.
Yeah.
And I recognize that that's a different thing, but I also recognize it's not my responsibility to make everybody see me. It's the people who see me. That's who I'm for. That's who I'm for. And if you can't see me, I'm not for you.
Right.
Go find somebody who's for you. It's not me. And if the only time you can see me is when I lose 30 pounds and you know what I mean? If that's the only time you can see me, I'm not for you right now. Bye. Because I think what changes for me is I no longer have this scarcity mindset that I have to get this person to love me because this is my last chance.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, there's always going to be enough people for the amount of love that I need.
I want to add body neutrality to this mix too, because I don't know, like there's just not all the times where you just love it. I think that body positivity was an important time for us. And I also want to bring up, I feel like I can't speak without acknowledging the fetishization and the obsession that comes from wanting to consume Black bodies, fearing Black trans bodies, fearing body hair, fearing Black people hair. Like, with that being said, I also like to make sure people are understanding me on the depths of my soul and my brain. Because I have people be like, oh, like you remind me of an anime character. Like, oh my God, like I love your energy. Like, oh my God, like they want me on their arm as a token.
Yep.
And that could be figuratively, sexually, even intellectually, depending on what spaces I'm in. And I had to make sure, like bro, like you need to understand that I have a brain as well. Like I have more to offer, and I need you to understand that.
One thing that I'm working out for myself is the trauma that's passed down from generation to generation and how it's held in your body. And now science shows us that on a cellular level, you hold the traumas of your ancestors, your grandparents and great-grandparents. And so I actually know I'm becoming more conscious that I'm playing out something, but I'm not quite there on like what that is that I'm doing. But I just want to know if you all have connected in this way with like understanding kind of that trauma that is not direct to your experience, but you feel it and you know it. And maybe you know it because you know the stories, or maybe it's just something that you inherently know, but you can't tap into.
I was a part of this art exhibit in St. Louis around like Black joy and Black grief. And so when I got to the joy part, I was able to like spit out all these poetry and dance and, skip through the flowers. And I waited to the last moment to do the grief part because I didn't know how to activate that. I was scared to activate that pain. I was scared that if I activated that pain, I wouldn't get up off the floor. I remember putting on a song, it's called Black Woman by Emmanuel. I remember just dancing to it, and I remember I was like shaking, my hands started shaking, and I got the throat filled up, and I was moving in a way that I've never moved before, and I was accessing the pain, but also accessing empowerment. And like, this is my body. I do what I want with this body at all times, regardless of whoever is around or whatever, society says. And so I don't really ask anymore right now, like, about trauma. I ask about joy because I feel like we can all tap into trauma, or we kind of know what it looks like and what it feels like, but we as in like at least my collective family don't know how to have joy. Like even when I go on dates, I'm like, what do you do for joy? Oh, I don't know. Like, I don't really know what happiness means. And that really hurts my heart. Like that hurts my sad boy heart, which is not their fault. But like, that's kind of how I transfer the question, because where there is pain, there is joy, and where there's joy, there is pain. And it's not a non-binary concept.
I love that answer, by the way. I mean, I love that answer. And I think that I was thinking about, I don't really get panic attacks necessarily a lot. In fact, when I first heard about panic attacks when I was a teenager, I was like, sounds made up. You just get freaked out because even though nothing is happening. And it took me years to realize I was having them all the time. I was just really used to
You were
them.
just in a state of
I didn't even know
panic.
that was, I was like, that's called being a normal person alive in the world. What are you tripping? Like, just move, just keep it moving, but a couple of months ago, I finished a therapy session in that session talked about some stuff that was painful. And I don't remember the sequence of events. I think I got a text that was stressing me out, and I don't remember what it was, but I just noticed that my whole ability to function, form sentences, make the next move, figure out what I'm gonna do next was gone. It was just gone. It was a Zoom therapy session because pandemic. I closed the computer, and I was incapable of doing the next thing. Should I make a cup of tea? Should I go and answer some email? My body was like, I got nothing for you, bro. Like, nothing. And I was like, oh, this is something. I don't know what it is, but it's something. And I was sitting in my bedroom, and my bed was right there, and it was like 1:30 in the afternoon, and I was like, I'm gonna go over there right now. And I just went into that bed, and I just let everything happen, just whatever. I just relaxed. I just and then I took a nap and whatever. And I've been thinking about that day a lot because it occurred to me that part of the way I deal with the physicality of trauma is I do something that allows me to feel my body, because when I'm confronted with trauma, I shut out the experience of my body. I don't have a body. I don't exist. No one can touch. I'm not even here, which is, tracks given my history. It's like I know that my tendency is to escape the body where all the feelings are. And what I've learned is I actually want to re-engage with the body. I want to have a loving, caring relationship with the body.
You're reparenting yourself.
Yeah.
You're reparenting your inner child. And I wonder if growing up, were you able to take naps? Because I wasn't. Yeah, it was like, if like my mom would call my phone and she's like, "Are you asleep?" I'm like, "No, I'm not asleep." Even to this day, like if someone calls me and my voice is like a little raspy, I'm like, I'm trying to.
They're like, "Were you taking a nap?" No, I wasn't.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just, la 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 la. Like, no, it's just not Snow White. Yeah, so even the access of napping is a radical act.
No, I didn't work hard enough. Or pay enough bills to be sleeping in the day.
Right.
Now you pay too many. You're like, oh,
I'm like,
do I have
I'm
time
12.
to sleep?
What am I? How am I supposed to? What am I supposed to?
That was writer Carvell Wallace and radically fit yoga instructor Mozell. And man, there was a whole lot more where that came from. You can check out our photos and some of the other parts of our conversation on Insta at Dear TBT. And we'll have a link to Carvell's essays about the body on our website, deartbt.com.
I feel like Black liberation means so many things, but we cannot think about doing one thing without doing all of the other things.
Since Sabrina String's groundbreaking book, Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Phat Phobia, came out in 2019, there's been a lot of discourse around understanding how fat phobia and racism are linked. This makes Sabrina feel hopeful that perceptions around all Black bodies are evolving. I asked her in the context of this what both Black and body liberation mean to her.
I got a very emotional sense of what Black liberation looked like when I was watching Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls. And I wasn't expecting that, and I'm not a huge fan of reality TV, so I didn't even think I was going to watch the whole series. I was like, well, it's Lizzo, it's relevant to things that are important to me, so let me at least see what this is about. And it was about so much more than body size. It was the only TV show I have ever seen where there's a group of women, largely Black women, who are just there to support one another and love one another as they work toward a common goal and realizing their dreams. There were so many moving moments in that show. And I felt like that looked like liberation. What if women, when we got together, instead of tearing one another down, instead of hating one another, instead of competing for some man who's usually not worth it, what if we got together and showed one another love and showed one another what we are capable of? That is liberation.
Truth Be Told is a production of TMI Productions and is produced by B.A. Parker, Phyllis Fletcher, Aisha Brown, Enrico Benjamin, and Adama Imeson, in association with Fearless Media. Our theme music is Rest by Otis McDonald and Zora's Moon by Candace Hoyes. Special thanks to Rochelle Roberts and Sam Rafelson. And a thank you to Heising Simons and the Ford Foundation for funding Truth Be Told. I'm Tonya Mosley. Until next time.
Somatic therapist Resma Menakem, he and I were talking, and I had mentioned to him that whenever I get overstimulated, when I just feel like it's too much, I immediately shut down. Every single time, like almost to the point where I need to go crawl into the bed. It's not even. And he said that at that point, when you get to that point, that means that you have brought your body to like its limit. And so when you said, Carvell, like you realized you are always in a state of anxiety, I think that speaks to that, because like when you aren't aware, then you aren't aware that you are always in that fight or flight state.
That's right.
And so then
Or
at
freeze.
the point, or freeze,
Yeah.
and then that point where it's
Yeah.
like too much is like, okay,
That's right.
I'm
That's
powering
right.
down, you know?
Totally. That's literally the sound in my head. Just like,